Hey geeks, welcome to another exciting episode of Rockin The Code World with dotNetDave. I'm David McCarter. I'm glad you're all here. I've missed you all. We've been off for a couple weeks because my awesome producer Simon was busy on some conferences. And so that's actually going to be happening periodically now that, COVID's kind of winding down. And so please make sure to keep track on Twitter when we're actually having shows and things like that for the upcoming rest of the year. So anyway, what have you guys been up to since I've been gone? I spent the time working on the brand new release of my open source project, Spargin. I'm going to release the .NET 6 version of it this weekend. And I have an article coming out. Hopefully Monday it'll be on CSharpCorner about it. And I hope you'll check it out because there's a lot of cool things in there. And I've worked really, really hard to create a brand new fluent validation code for checking all your parameters coming into your methods and properties, which is one thing I see. It's like the number two thing I see developers not doing is that in code. And so I've tried to make it super, super easy by using fluent validation. So I hope you like it. The article, that's all it talks about is all the new fluent validation. And I've been, I got my favorite guitar back from the shop and my guitar processing unit back from the shop. So I'm a happy camper playing my guitars on the weekends. And so put it in the chat what you guys have been up to. And also my guest today is Mika Dumont from she's a program manager on the .NET and Visual Studio. So if you have Visual Studio questions or issues, please start putting them in the chat, and I can talk with Mika about them today. So I've been excited about having somebody from the Visual Studio team on. So I like all my shows, but I know today's going to be cool too. And I'm just back. I like doing these shows for you all. So, and with that, this is your show. So you've got to ask questions. And this is not my show, even though I do learn some things on these shows. This is your show. So make sure you ask questions. So unfortunately, our friends in the Ukraine are still battling that tyrant Putin. And so I still feel sad for my friends in the Ukraine. I've been able to find out that all of my friends that I keep in touch with in Ukraine are doing okay. But I know they're, facing new challenges, mostly in the east of Ukraine. So please keep your thoughts and prayers with the people in Ukraine as they fight off this crazy person, if you ask me. And so we can get them back. Because I want to go back and speak there. It's a beautiful country. I want to go back just to visit the country, but I definitely want to go back and also speak as soon as I can. So also talking about speaking, I'm going to Australia. I'll be there the week of June 20th, and I'll be speaking at NDC Melbourne on June 23rd. So if you're in Australia, I hope you come check out the conference and come say hi. And if you come say hi, I'll probably have some swag to give you. I've got a lot of stuff to get rid of out of my house. I don't know how much I'll be able to lug to Australia, but I'll take as much as I can. So if you're there, I hope to meet you and go have a shrimp on the Barbie or whatever it's called back there. I don't know. That was pretty bad attempt at Australian humor. So I found some news that happened this last couple of weeks, and the .NET 7 Preview 3, .NET MAUI RC is out. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited about MAUI. There's an app I've been waiting for, actually for years, to rewrite for something I can do with .NET Core. And so MAUI looks like it might fit for what I need, and it's a free app for you guys. So as soon as I get Spargin out the door, I'm going to start working on that app using MAUI. So I'm excited about that. I also have a new article. I just said there will be a new article coming out probably Monday about my fluent validation. The last one that came out 2 weeks ago was I thought I was a software engineer. So if you get frustrated at work and you want to read an extreme story of what happened to me at my one of my recent contracts, read that because I didn't do a lot of software engineering in the 2 weeks that I talk about in this article. So anyway, I hope you check it out. And with that, I'm going to bring on Mika. Mika is program manager at Microsoft on .NET and Visual Studio team. Her main focus is to help .NET developers be more Her main focus is to help .NET developers. What is wrong with me? Her main focus is to help .NET developers be more productive in Visual Studio. I don't know what's wrong with my mouth this morning. Sorry, Mika. Welcome to the show.
Hi. That was awesome introduction.
It was not. That was terrible.
No, I totally hear it. I'm like talking all day and I'm just like, what am I talking about again? So yeah. But
Saturday morning.
having me.
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
glad you're
Saturday
here.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So we were talking right before the show, and you moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And how long ago did you move there?
About a year and a half ago. So I live in Venice Beach. Like just a 10-minute walk from the beach. Yeah, it's so nice. It's so cute and charming. And yeah, I mean, I'm really liking it here. It's pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
LA, well, the only part I avoid LA just because of the highways, right?
Yeah.
The traffic is insane there, and
insane. Yeah.
And where were you from before you moved there?
So I was living in Seattle for work. And then before that, I've been traveling a lot. Before that, I did a coding boot camp in Hawaii.
Oh,
that's how I learned how to code. Like the first language I learned was JavaScript. So I learned how to create, different web apps using JavaScript. And then I got an internship at Microsoft. So I moved to Seattle. But before I lived in Hawaii, I lived in New York City. So yeah, I was living there for like 8 years.
But you don't drive there, right? You just take the subway everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, you take the subway, you walk. I actually had to relearn how to drive, like in Hawaii. Yeah. I completely forgot how to drive, just like living in New York for 8 years. It was so bad.
I wonder about that. I see shows where, they live in New York, they don't have a car, and then they're at some part of the show they're driving. And I go, do you remember how to drive? You don't drive in New York City, right? Nobody drives there.
No, yeah. My friends who grew up in Manhattan never even really got their driver's license. Like there's like no point. So yeah.
Well, someday in the future, nobody will have driver's license, right?
Yeah, that's true.
AI driven electric cars, and we just pop in and out, and that's it.
I'm still waiting to spot one. Like my goal is to see one in the street.
I've never even seen one of those Google cars. That takes the pictures of the neighborhood. I've never seen one. I'm going, when are those around? Because I never see one of those things. Right? Ever.
Yeah. Same.
I've seen pictures of them, so I know what they look like, but I have no idea I've never actually seen one. So and they'll be autonomous, right? And they'll just drive around. They won't have to have a human in there anymore. But I think that is a long way off, stuff like that, especially with the regulatory stuff. And, every bad thing that happens with an autonomous car is going to be hyped on the news and will make things tougher,
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm kind of looking forward to them to doing it to semi trucks because they're the worst drivers, number one. Right. And I don't think we need, truck drivers anymore. So, people, learning to be a truck driver, I think their time is going to be short in that career.
Yeah. I saw a video actually of like a truck. I don't know if it's like real or not. It was just a truck with like a screen behind it showing you like what's in front of it. So if you want to pass the truck, it's like a safe way to pass them.
Yeah.
Which, reduces accidents, I guess. I don't know if that's like completely real. I just saw it. I thought it was so cool. But
I think we should have more of that. I think we should have more visibility within the car of what's going on around us, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's important.
And I was even thinking this week about I had a brain fart now. I've totally forgot what I was thinking about. So yeah, so we'll see about cars. I'm not sold on the self-driving cars yet.
Yeah.
I still think we have a long ways to go and a lot more testing and making sure that things don't go wrong. But I'm sure in the end, the the autonomous cars will drive a lot better than we do because we suck. Some of the California drivers are horrible. I don't know where I'm sure they're pretty bad in New York. I know they're pretty bad in New York City too, but
Yeah. In
drivers here
Venice,
just
they don't stop at the stop signs. Like they just like
they don't.
roll through.
No, they don't do that anywhere in California. That's called the
Yeah.
rolling stop, right?
Yeah. And there's like
Yeah,
I see cops in the streets, but like I don't know, New York was so strict when it came to driving. Like you would get a ticket in a second.
yeah.
I don't really know like LA. I feel like you
It
can get
doesn't
away with
happen
a lot
much
more.
here anymore because of the shrinking of the budget for policemen and other
Oh.
tasks that policemen are stuck on. They used to be a lot better than they are now.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
then that
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah. It was
yeah.
just one thing I noticed. I'm like, damn, the cops in New York are so much more strict. Even Miami, like my family lives in Miami and like you'll get a ticket in like a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
You're
You
like,
can't do anything. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you really you really can't. Yeah.
Well, now the people, at least in San Diego, the people that give out tickets for parking, parking in the wrong area and stuff like that, they're Nazi. They're the Nazis, or they're always there. So you have to be really careful
Oh,
about where you
really?
park and
Okay.
make sure you're parking in the right place and it's not a paid place. And they're pretty bad, but the cops don't do much anymore with traffic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we're way off topic. So
Okay.
everybody who's joined this show, this is not a show about complaining about
About
driving.
traffic and cops.
This is about Visual Studio today and .NET. And so Mika is the
Oh.
person to ask about this. And so make sure you put some comments up there. I don't see any yet. And so we can get your questions answered. And if you have issues with Visual Studio, I could talk for hours with my Visual Studio issues, but let's try to save that to the end, maybe.
Yeah. Or you can
So
tweet at me if you want.
yeah. Well, now that what's her name is gone. Okay. Why can't I remember her name? Simon. It'll come back in a minute.
Okay.
But I used
Like
to have
from the Visual Studio team?
yeah.
Kendra?
Kendra, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
sad she's gone.
I know, we worked really closely together. She actually, like, was my mentor when I first
Yeah.
started. Like, she taught me everything I know, so
Yeah, I like Kendra. She's been on the show. I
Oh,
really like
yeah?
her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she left very recently. It was shocking, but, I mean, she's a rock star. She's just gonna do
Yeah.
amazing things always,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's sad to see her go, but it's her career, so
Yeah.
I always want to see people do what they want to do in their career and grow and be better, and that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sad to see the people I really like at Microsoft decide to go somewhere for some reason.
I
Yeah.
know, but they might come back. I'm still
Yeah,
hopeful,
hopefully.
Get more experience somewhere else and then maybe come back as, like, a VP or something, like,
Right.
who knows?
All we got to do is get the Facebook stock to go down, and maybe people will come back to Microsoft. Because Facebook just pays crazy salaries, right?
I
mean,
heard,
I
yeah.
don't know how other companies can keep
Compete with
up with.
that? Yeah.
No, yeah, they just have so much money to throw at people. So I mean, there's like beginners coming out of college making like $250.
Really?
So,
I
oh
didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
I don't Yeah, I had no idea that they can make that. That's crazy, but,
It's
I
more
mean
money I've ever made.
yeah, same, that's
I'll never
insane.
make that much money. I'm not
Yeah,
that smart.
but it's probably not their base, probably, like, stocks and
Hmm.
sign-on bonuses or I don't know, I'm just assuming, but
Yeah. So let's talk about Visual Studio. So what do you want to
yeah.
talk about first?
Yeah. Well, so for those of you that don't know me, I work on the .NET and the Visual Studio team. So essentially, what I'm in charge of is helping .NET developers be more productive when they're writing code in Visual Studio. So that includes, tools such as like IntelliSense completion, navigation, refactorings, code style enforcement, and more. And so if you do ever use those tools and you have any suggestions on how to like enhance those tools, or if you have a bug, like feel free to just file an issue through the Visual Studio send feedback tool. I do work on the Roslyn team, and Roslyn is open source. So you can also go on GitHub and you can file issues there. And so Roslyn does power all these productivity tools that I just mentioned. And Roslyn is the code name for the C# and the Visual Basic compiler, but it's not just your ordinary compiler. It's like a set of open source APIs. So anyone can actually go ahead and build their own productivity tools, which is really cool. So if you want to create your own completion options that show up in an IntelliSense, you can contribute to Roslyn. If you want to create your own code fix or refactoring, you can, do that on GitHub, which is really, really cool.
And it works, all those things you mentioned work. I mean, I haven't like done a pull request on anything, but I do often submit, issues, and I also often submit, feedback too. And some of my feedback has been fixed pretty quick. There's some that are still been working on for years. I'm still.
Which ones? Maybe I can prioritize
I actually
backlog.
I actually messaged the people working on it this week, because especially with .NET 7 coming out, I really wish this was there. And so one thing that was in .NET Framework, which I actually worked with the PM for 2 years at Microsoft when I was there, when I go there for the MVP summits.
Oh yeah.
And so what I was working on with him was the IntelliTests.
Okay.
And so, because, it was a big deal to me, because at the time, I was teaching, I was also running my user group. And one of the things that, a lot of developers say, well, yeah, unit tests are great, everything, but I have all this legacy code, and it's just too costly to spend time going back and unit testing legacy code. And, what do we do? And I told the person, I don't know, because Microsoft doesn't have anything right now, and no other third party does either. And so then, this opportunity came up to work with the PM for the IntelliTest. And I love IntelliTest because it makes our job so much easier to writing unit tests, because IntelliTest, number one, figures out how to break your method, right? Which we don't think about as much as that engine did, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we can think about, okay, well, the developer will do this and the developer will do this, but their engine would figure out stuff you wouldn't think a developer would do, right?
Yeah.
And we have to take that into account when we're doing validation on our methods and things like that, right? And so what IntelliTest did was make it super simple to write the scaffolding for testing for encapsulation, right? And this is one thing I talk about a lot in my books and conferences and everything in my writing, that you have to be practicing 100% good encapsulation in your code. And, I tell people, if you're not doing that, you're not doing object-oriented programming, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you do that? Well, you have to make sure everything coming into your type is correct, right, before you let it go on to wherever it's going next. And so IntelliTest would write the scaffolding for the encapsulation tests, right? And it would give you the scaffolding for that. And using partial classes, it would then allow you to then hook in your business logic testing and things like that, right? And so unfortunately, and I loved it. I used it all the time when I was working with the .NET Framework, which I don't anymore. And so, but unfortunately, they didn't bring it to .NET Core. So there's been a lot of us screaming for, ever since .NET Core has been released, where are IntelliTests?
Oh, wow. Okay.
and it's in progress right now, or
Okay,
on the road.
that's good
No,
to
I'm
know.
sorry. It's on the roadmap, which I'm not sure what that means.
Okay. It means it's in progress, I think. Like if it's like out there on the roadmap, then.
So if you can find out who's working on that, kick them in the butt, because we need that like now. I mean, no, we needed that when .NET Core was released, actually.
Yeah, let me look into that. I'm curious I actually have no idea who's working on that or who
I
works
don't either.
on that. Yeah.
Now, Kendrick Kendra
she
did have
was
it.
testing PM. So I like kind of want to ask her team, like the engineers, and see. So
Yeah,
that's
her and
where I'm
I
going to
had a
start.
meeting right before she left for about an hour talking about stuff and talking about IntelliTest. And so I was on a call with her and somebody else from Microsoft for at least an hour. And so, yeah, it's probably somebody in her team for sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'll reach out to the engineers on her team and see what's up.
Yeah. So if you can get that and done at 7, I would be so happy, you know,
Yeah.
because I was even writing up some, because now I'm an architect and I was writing up some issues and things I found in some of the code that I'm architecting over. And you know, one of the things I tell everybody a lot, and since we don't have any questions, is that, you know, I ask people if they understand what the cyclomatic complexity number means, you know, in when you're coding. And most people actually don't know what that means. And that basically, just for people who don't know what it means, that basically means the cyclomatic complexity is the number of paths that can be taken based on the parameters coming into your method, right? That's cyclomatic complexity. And for good code reuse and also for unit testing and things like that, you want to keep that number really low as you can. Like over 20 is too high.
Yeah.
Is for, because if this, so what I tell people though, and this is why IntelliTests are super important, is that if you have a method that is has a cyclomatic complexity of 20, that means you have to write a minimum 20 unit tests to just test encapsulation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when I look at code bases and I see, okay, you know, what's their cyclomatic complexity, right? And for example, and I think in this code base I was looking at this week, you know, their total cyclomatic complexity in the entire code base was like 27,000, right?
Well, yeah.
But they only had 900 in some unit tests. So that tells me they're very, very far sufficient in unit testing, you know, and so that's what that number means to me. And so that's what IntelliTest helps you with, is to beat that, to make that number, well, sorry, I don't know what I'm saying, to test that, you know, to test those paths, right? And so anyway, I want to tell you, yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I just want IntelliTest. That's all I want.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, feel free to share that issue with me. Or
yeah,
if
I'll
you
send
like,
it to you.
yeah, just so I can bring it up again.
Yeah, I think I have it up in my browser.
So. There, so the community can see like what our plans are there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
She joined UiPath. Oh yeah, Kendra joined UiPath. What is UiPath?
Yeah.
What is that?
I honestly, I'm like the worst person to ask. I don't know exactly what they do. I know they do like automation, and you know, I really don't
Leader
know.
and RPA, but what's RPA?
I don't know.
Stop using acronyms.
Yeah.
Come on, Simon. Simon's talking in the private chat. That's what I'm reading.
Yeah, but we actually are, yeah, her old manager works there. And so I don't know if you remember Andrew Hall, but he was working on .NET and Visual Studio. So he works at UiPath now as well. And he's amazing. So she pretty much followed him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. I've always loved robotics, but you know, when I was a kid, you know, that we didn't have like what we have now, you know.
I never took a robotics course or anything, but it sounds really cool. It's like on my list.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, when my son was a teenager, you know, around that time, you know, they built Legoland here. So, you know, we have the only Legoland in America. And so Legoland had this robotic kit you could buy, and I bought him one, and I'm trying to remember, it's called Mindstorm, or I forget what it's called, but you basically can, you know, it has all these motorized parts and things like that, and it's got some kind of computer thing in it, and kids can program it what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I told my friends at the time, I go, yeah, the reason I bought that so he can build a robotic thing to go to the refrigerator and get me a beer. That's what I want, you know.
Yeah.
So and they still have that. I'd be interested to see what it looks like these days, because when I bought that for him, it was like right at it was the first one that came out, and so
Yeah.
it was brand new and everything. So
That's so cool.
and now I hear they just made it right next to Legoland. They put in a Sesame Street land.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Yeah, my nieces and nephews love Sesame Street, so I should take them there if I'm a good aunt,
yeah. Well, I'm a huge Disneyland fan. I love Disneyland. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't been there a long time because my kids, when they were like mid-teenagers, decided they were too old for Disneyland.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them, look how old I am. I love Disneyland. What are you talking about?
What about like Universal? They're not too old for that, or
No, they like that there, but they're older now. They're adults, so
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
if my grandkids ever come out here, I definitely want to take them to Disneyland. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
That'd be
so fun. I want to find an excuse to go, honestly.
Oh, you should go. You have to go. And here's my tip for Disneyland. If you've never been, this is an insider tip. Unfortunately, I'm telling everybody. But try really hard to stay at one of the Disneyland hotels. It'll be a little bit more expensive. Like one time I took my girlfriend at the time for Valentine's Day, and we spent two days at the actual first Disneyland hotel, which is right across the street. And that was really cool, with Mickey Mouse soap, and you could have breakfast with the characters, and
cool.
the kids love that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but so the kids will love it, because they get to have, the characters at breakfast will come up and take pictures with, the kids eating breakfast and things like that. But the best part is that if you stay at one of the Disneyland hotels, you get to go into Disneyland like 2 or 3 hours early.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you get to start. I think you get to go at 7, right? And Disneyland opens at 9.
Oh,
and
that's sick.
So if you have a hotel key, the only way to get in is through the monorail, right? Because they don't open the gates till 9. And so if you have a hotel key, you can take the monorail in. And I actually did that when I took my girlfriend up there for Valentine's Day, and we went almost on every major ride before 9 o'clock.
Oh, really?
Because there was nobody there.
Yeah.
There was hardly anybody in the park. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could really get in all the rides. It's really just the lines that make you spend like more than 12 hours there,
Yeah, I walked onto Space Mountain like 3 times.
Yeah.
I came off and walked right back on.
That's the only ride I remember from Disney World. When I was little, I went to Disney World, but I just remembered Space Mountain. I couldn't remember anything else, to be honest.
So anyway, we're off topic again.
Okay.
Sorry about that. No one's asking questions. Mindstorm's not cheap. Yeah, I know. But you never get too old. Yes, I agree with you, John. Yeah, you're never too old. You're always a kid at heart, I think. Well, at least I am. That's for sure. So let's talk. I was thinking a little bit about if you can talk about, what's coming out maybe in .NET 7. Is there any enhancements for productivity and things like that coming out with .NET 7 with Visual Studio?
Yeah, so a lot of people are working on a lot of cool things. We have ideas where we want to like add some more like interactive experiences, and that's all I can really say. It's like
yeah, I know.
secret, but it's going to be really cool. So my team is currently working on that. And, we're also working with the IntelliCode team. So the IntelliCode team is like the AI team, and they provide suggestions, and they use programming by example to actually provide now like different like refactorings. And what's really cool is that they can actually provide refactoring based on like what a bunch of developers are sort of doing. They kind of like scan through these repos. They are able to sort of like see what they're doing, and then they can like suggest it at like the right moment. Whereas like Roslyn, when we suggest different refactorings or code fixes, you have to be at a clean state. And so, or we'll like hard code when we think what we do, and then we like assume like, okay, this is probably what most developers, this is when they would want this refactoring or code fix, right? So that's really cool. And that is something that's already out, you know, so we have some IntelliCode refactorings that came out recently. It's like generate a constructor, as well as add a parameter to the constructor. So these are like 2 new ones, and like we're just looking to add even more. So definitely check that out. That will be really cool. I think that's actually in 17.1, I want to say. So if you're on like Visual Studio 2022 preview, you can play around with these IntelliCode refactorings, which is really cool. So
I do want to inject right that I really like that feature when it works.
yeah,
I'll talk about that in a second, but you know, I was a little skeptical when I first heard them talking about this before it came out, and I was going, I really don't want you recommending how to code based on a bunch of other developers, because I analyze code all the time, and I would never write code like that. So I was a little skeptical at first, but the thing I like about it is that, especially when I'm writing this boring, you know, quite frankly, you know, the reason a lot of people don't validate, you know, methods coming into parameter methods is that it's just boring code. It's not, you know, it's just boring. You know, we don't like doing it, and it does help you with that. Like if I check a parameter one way, and then the next line I start typing the second parameter, it guesses basically what I just did the line above and does it for the second line. I was going, oh, now that's cool. I like that, because now it's telling me stuff based on what I'm doing, right? And and I do like that part. But the problem I have with it is the performance of Visual Studio on my Surface laptop. It makes that almost not work like half the time, because it lags behind what I can type, how fast I can do it, you know.
Interesting. Yeah. So performance has been our like biggest priority this past year, and still is. So like half our team is actually just working on like performance bugs, or just like looking into like enhancements in Visual Studio. So definitely, if you ever do find that you are like IntelliSense is lagging or anything is sort of lagging in Visual Studio, feel free to just do like in the send feedback tool in Visual Studio, just like file a bug and like include all your traces and everything, so we can actually like get that all that data in order to go in and see what the actual root of the problem is. Like I do like tons of surveys, or I'll do like customer development, and like I'll be like, oh, like what improvements like can we make in Visual Studio, or you know, and they're like the performance, and it's like it's just like not helpful, because it's
to
like
me it's number one,
for sure. But it's like I would just love to get that bug issued, you know, like filed, so we can like really like get to the root of it. So like a lot of times I'll like reach out to them and I'll be like, hey, you mentioned performance, like do you mind like filing a bug here, and like including all your stack, like all your traces and everything, so we can like go in and like really solve this for you, because that's really important. And a lot of people like won't really include that necessarily, but we need that in order to actually see what's really going on. For sure.
You know, I was told before 2022 came out that because you're going to 64-bit, that's going to improve the performance, but unfortunately I haven't seen that. So it didn't improve the performance on my box, and I have to admit, I need a new laptop. I mean, it works fine, but Visual Studio just has some issues with it. And
you have the Surface? Because I was actually considering getting that, but
I love my Surface, but I've had the Surface for, I would say 4 or 5 years now, so it's a bit old.
You need an upgrade. This will only last
I do need an upgrade.
years.
I can't even put Windows 11 on it. You know, that's how.
Oh wow. I heard the Surface. Is it the Surface Studio? I'm not sure exactly what I think that's what it's called. I heard it's like so much better than the Surface. Like
Surface what?
I think it's Studio. I'm not totally sure.
Surface Studio. They gave it a new name.
there's like another type now instead of there's like the Surface that's like really skinny and
Oh, and
small,
then the bigger one. Yeah.
and then there's like another one that's like really good.
Yeah, I have seen the other one. I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool because you can detach the
Yeah.
monitor and just walk around with it like a tablet.
I
Yeah.
would never use that feature. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm just like like what?
Well,
Yeah, it's a little excessive.
I think I think the I think that feature would work probably pretty cool
Yep.
speaking
Yeah.
because you could just walk around with it and just you could see your
Oh,
notes. You can
I
see your
guess you're
notes. You can
right.
advance the slides and everything right on the little thing,
Yeah.
right? And just walk because I don't stand at the podium. I never ever stand at the podium. I'm
Oh, really? I'm
walking.
like I'm like literally behind the podium the whole time. So
No,
it's like I'm literally demoing as I
yeah.
talk. Yeah.
I pre-record all my demos. So
Oh, okay.
I do that purposely because I don't want to stand at the podium, right?
Yeah.
Because I've learned through almost 30 years of speaking that if you move around, people pay attention to you more, right? As soon as you just
Yeah.
stand there and start talking into your screen, people check out, right?
Yeah.
So I've learned that I have to move, and I even wore a Fitbit once, and I walked like 3 miles in 1 hour.
Oh, wow.
When I'm presenting, yeah. So it's a workout.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I need to I need to watch some of your talks and look into that and see if I could do that because
Yeah,
I'm literally just like talking as I'm demoing and
yeah,
it's hard to remember what you want to say necessarily. Like I don't know, it's just a lot.
yeah.
But
So yeah, so I know this we're not supposed to be talking about speaking, but I stopped doing live demos 12 years ago.
okay.
And there were a number of reasons, but one is it's too hard to demo and talk at the same time, right?
It
And
is.
it is.
People don't
It's
realize.
no, and most people can't do it, right? Especially software engineers are terrible at it, right? The only time I've seen that work is when they have two people, right? But unfortunately, one person doing it and one person talking about it, right? But
Oh,
unfortunately,
that's interesting.
most of us don't get that luxury. It's usually the higher up people that have people working for them, right? And so and since I do the same talk over and over again, right? Um, I have a set of talks I do that are on my website, and those are the talks I do. If you want me to come speak, that's the talk I'll do, right?
Yeah.
And because I have them pre-canned, and since I do them over and over, I record the demos, right? Because why do the same demo 100
Yeah.
times, right?
No, it's true.
Yeah, and that way it gives me opportunity to talk to the video while it's demoing, right? And that works for me, at least. It works out much better, right? So
Yeah. I'm gonna try that because
yeah,
yeah, there's just so many talks that we have to do and like I'm just like I'm literally saying the same thing, but because the beginning says like, hey, like, build or it's just like I can't reuse that. So it would
no,
be
that's
helpful to
true.
have this
Yeah,
like generic demo that I can always just like paste in and then just
yep.
like add a new intro or an outro.
And
So
that's what I do. I use Camtasia. I use Camtasia and do
I also
everything
use
through.
Camtasia. It's
Yeah,
so good.
yeah.
Well,
John, let's get to we actually have a question. That's
okay.
great. Thanks, John. Anything with XAML and effects for end users? I'm looking to make a spelling program, still prototyping. So anything with XAML and effects for end users? What do you mean? Like anything new coming from XAML? Is that what you're asking, John? I'm not. Do you understand? I'm not sure if I understand the
I'm not
question.
so honestly, I don't know what's necessarily new with XAML. It's I could
Hmm.
like reach out to the PM and see like if there's anything.
Okay. So
Yeah,
John, why don't you tweet at Mika, and you guys
yeah,
can find out what's going on with SAML. Yeah.
and I can find that PM and hunt them down and get them to answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But yeah,
thanks for
I'm
asking
not
the question,
totally sure.
John. Um,
There is a
and
website. It's called Themes of .NET, and you can actually see our, I guess, roadmap for .NET. And so, yeah, check that out. So themes of
could you
.NET.
look that up, Simon, and post it if you can find it?
Yeah. Let me also, but yeah, it
No, it's
should.
okay. Simon will look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that should have a lot of the .NET teams roadmaps on there. So that's where
Cool.
we have some of our stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my and getting back to, talking about IntelliCode and stuff is, yeah, my biggest pet peeve with Visual Studio right now is the performance. It's sometimes really, really gets in my way, and that's not what Visual Studio is supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be helping you, right? And I did do a Twitter poll about this, and I unfortunately I asked the question the wrong way because I think people. So when I asked, what do you think about performance of Visual Studio 2022? Because I didn't feel it was faster, right? And but I think too many people thought I was asking, does it make can they code faster with Visual Studio 2022? And I think a lot of people said yes because of the IntelliCode and those kind of things that you put in 2022, right?
Interesting. Okay.
I was talking about the actual performance of the actual application itself, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you have a couple third-party things loaded up, and I know there's still some issues revolved around add-ins and stuff with Visual Studio, and I hope you guys are working on the performance of that too, because that's, for me, I actually keep down the number of stuff I install now because it just makes it so much worse. So I only have a core few things that I have installed, like Code Rest from DevExpress.
Okay.
Right now I'm using Endepend to do validation of stuff, and there's one and the DevExpress tools, controls and stuff like that. That's like pretty much the only thing I've installed now.
Yeah. I mean, if you do have like an issue with typing or like IntelliSense, I would just like our team is like desperate to hear about it. So like feel free to really file a bug on Roslyn and just include your stack trace and everything, because we really do want to like get to the bottom of it. That's what we're like actively working on. I see how they said how like IntelliCode's helping because they will literally just like complete the line for you. You just have to press tab twice, I think, or tab once. I don't know. They changed their shortcuts like every other day. They're just like testing things. But and like we're actually working on like semantic snippets also on the Roslyn team, which is really cool. And that should also be coming out around like the .NET 7 timeframe, where it's just like,
what is that?
We're gonna include snippets where they're like semantically aware. So like we won't offer like console.writeLine if you can't just add it in a certain location. So it's just going to be a part of the IntelliSense completion list. And you can find that on GitHub on Roslyn's repo. You can just like search under issues for semantic snippets, and you can like learn all about that. But that's like something else that we're looking into. We're trying to make snippets smarter, I guess. So,
smart snippets.
Yeah, which is like, it's kind of similar to like IntelliCode in a way. So working with the IntelliCode team, we want to like use our Ghost Text API so we can kind of like show you what it would look like if you were to like commit that snippet in the IntelliSense list. So that's also pretty cool and exciting. Yeah.
Something that I don't know if your team works on this, but I know one thing a bunch of people are talking about, that they like it. I've heard some downsides to it also is, but I've seen some really great performance increases using code generators. And
cool. Yeah.
So I, based on some of the comments I've seen of people actually making code generators, they're kind of complaining about it's a little too difficult, to get stuff working with code generators.
Okay.
So I hope that gets better, because I think we need more of that, right? Because some of the testing I've done with some things with the benchmark testing I do, because I have a book out on code performance and code quality, and so I mean, my benchmark test for that book, it takes over 2 days to run the benchmarks. That's how many freaking benchmarks I have. And but now I forgot what I was talking about that.
Source generators, yeah.
Oh, source generators. So like I just recently found out, and that's coming out in the new version of my open source stuff this weekend. And that is, I just wrote an article for CSharpCorner a couple weeks ago about a new way of doing logging that speeds up logging. And so after I released the article, I benchmark the code generators to basically do the same thing. And the code generators are almost almost twice as fast as what I wrote about in the article. And so for me, because I'm all, I'm big into code performance and things like that. I'm really looking forward to more and more generators coming out. Not only within Visual Studio itself, I mean, with .NET and everything, but also for, other people writing them too.
Yeah. Again, you can 100% like tweet at me about that too. And yeah, a lot of the source generator stuff is on the Roslyn repo.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of see like what we're up to with that. But yeah, I would love to learn more about how people find it like difficult to get started with it. Cause yeah, I mean, I would love to like work on that and make sure like it is as easy as possible.
Yeah,
For
because
sure.
I think we need more of that than less.
Yeah.
I think code generators, maybe in the next year or so, it'll be going to be becoming a lot bigger. But
Yeah.
I think for they become bigger, it needs to be I think it needs to be easier to get going with them.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of like same with like our Roslyn analyzers or like getting started for writing your own like code analysis tools. Like it is a bit complex. Like we have these like templates you can use and all of that, or like scaffolding that's already there, but it is pretty complex. So like something that like I would love to do is just to like figure out ways to make it a lot easier for people to write their own analyzers and also source generators too. So those are two things that our team really does like think about, and yeah, we would love to improve that for sure.
Yeah, both those things I want to investigate more because I do want to write a code generator. I don't know what it's going to be called, but it's basically, so the number one issue I see pretty much developers not doing correctly in code, and that is not taking care of disposable objects, right? I see it every code base I look at, it doesn't matter. I find memory problems, right? And some worse, some like my brand new job I just started as architect, they're doing better than my last one, which, oh my gosh, they were the worst company ever. They had to reboot servers multiple times a day because of their memory issues and things like that. And it's all because too many .NET developers don't understand how memory management works in .NET. And so I kind of want to make it simple. You put a code generator tag at the top of your class and I'll take care of it for you. Don't worry about it. If there's something bad, there's something disposable in there, I'll take care of it for you. So because too many people just do it wrong. And I see the same, I even see it in my current job where they have these servers that they have to reboot every once in a while. And I know exactly why that's happening. It's because of the memory management issues. So,
I mean, that would be awesome if you add that for us.
Well, I do want to work on that. And I also kind of want to work on some analyzers wrapped around my coding standards book. So, but I've got a lot of stuff on my plate, and those things are kind of towards the end. So we're almost out of time. So is there anything else you want to talk about really quick? We didn't. The one thing I really wanted to talk about, and I talk too much in this show, and that's about the editor config. So I'm going to, is that under your purview? Is the editor config stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to have you back on because I think I could do a show just on that.
For sure.
Because so here's the things with editor config is I kind of understand why Microsoft went to editor config and away from what they were doing before, because it makes it easier.
Options code style, you mean that versus the tools options code style versus like the editor config file?
Right. And so I kind of know why Microsoft went that way, but unfortunately, my feeling is that it's harder to set up and use, and therefore less people are using it. And so, for example, one of my things with it is that even with the new editor that you put in Visual Studio for the editor config, that doesn't have all the possibilities you can set in your code. Right. And so, and that's kind of my first thing with it is even with that in Visual Studio, it doesn't list everything that you can actually do with just out of the box in Visual Studio. Right. You basically have to hunt all these web pages, which I have done painstakingly, and I made a GIST page, a GIST page out of it. I don't know how you pronounce it.
A gist or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And where I basically found everything and I put it into one editor config, and you can use it or not, or take things out or whatever. So
please share that with me, because I am curious what options you weren't able to find in the editor config UI.
There's hundreds, literally hundreds. And so, and then the other thing I was thinking about, because I've been thinking about this show this week, and that is the other thing is that I found with, so one of the really good NuGet, so we were just talking about disposable issues, and I've yet to find a tool that will find all of the disposable issues in your code. And there's no tool out there that exists that does it. Not Independ, not Code, not what's the other program I use to do that? No tool finds everything.
Yeah.
Right? It boils down to you using your head and your eyes to find everything, unfortunately. And so, but after I wrote a series of articles about that, someone did release a NuGet package that actually does a lot better than any tool I've been able to find. It telling you what you're doing wrong with memory issues. And so, but the issue is that the challenge is that, that, NuGet package comes with a bunch of stuff you can add into EditorConfig, right? And so one of the things I was thinking about this week, it would be really, really nice if someone did put out, like, for example, a code analyzer or a NuGet package like this guy did for disposable issues, if there's some way that Visual Studio could learn about their editor config settings and plop them into the file for you, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I had to go research. Even with this guy's page, he didn't have an editor config example. He just had documentation for everything. So I basically had to pull everyone out, copy and paste everyone out, and paste it into my editor config, where it would be nice if there was something built into that, into that DLL that he provided, that Visual Studio could see, oh, these are the editor config items for this package. So let's add them, or let's give the developer the ability to add them in automatically, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we actually have that. So I don't know if I have time. I can share my screen and show you.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We have a couple minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So
we're going to go over a little bit. Simon, let me make sure he's not yelling at me about something.
Okay. I don't know how
it's
much
okay.
we're going to go over, but I'm like, I don't know how long, but I just wanted to sort of
make sure you share have you shared your screen yet?
Yeah, I just shared it.
Have. Okay, good.
Can you see it, or? Oh, you do? Okay. So this is the new editor config UI. It uses like the tabular data control, which is what the errorless uses. It has columns and lines and everything. So if you do have complaints about how this is being like sort of viewed, that's actually a Visual Studio issue that we can always go in and try to see if the Visual Studio team can fix. But also for those of you that aren't familiar with an editor config, it's just a single file that helps you maintain consistent code across your team. So anyone who clones from that repo will actually get the same coding convention guidance that you set in this file. So we created this UI on top of it, and it has all of the white space analyzers, as well as the code style ones, naming styles we added recently, and then analyzers, this includes the .NET. In .NET 5, we included a bunch of Roslyn code quality analyzers to the SDK, so you automatically get guidance on best practices when writing .NET code, when writing like C#. We were like, okay, we have it as a NuGet package, so we're like, why don't we just like ship this with the SDK? Like everybody needs to like install it anyway, so we now ship it with the SDK. So you can actually go ahead and view all of these different analyzers if you go underneath the analyzers tab. And this is all like code quality that all the Roslyn engineers wrote. And so we also, I don't know if you can see here, I have this third-party extension, XUnit installed, and they actually ship analyzers too. So that will automatically show up.
So see, that's what I'm talking about. Is the analyzers automatically show up in Visual Studio.
Yeah, that was like one of the top things that we wanted to do. Like with the old editor config file, you couldn't see everything that was there. And I was just like, what's going on? Like, we have all these different like code styles. And as soon as we added the third party, and as soon as we had third party analyzer support always, but you couldn't like see them. So we were like, we need to have a way to surface those, exactly what you're asking for. And then we also need a way to surface all of our like Roslyn analyzers, all the code quality analyzers that we're shipping with the .NET SDK. So we created this UI to hopefully help you with that.
Well, that makes me feel good. Now we just need to take care of NuGet packages, like that guy put out that NuGet package that he controls things through analyze, you know, the editor config stuff. So
yeah.
But I think you know, while you were demoing that, I was thinking, I think you're going to regret coming on the show, because now I know who to go after about the editor config stuff. And so you're going to be hearing a lot from me.
We really need the feedback. Like, I got an email actually, like from like an internal engineer, and it was, I don't know, it was maybe like 40 issues with the editor config, code cleanup. Code cleanup isn't actually something that my team owns, but like we really want to do things there. So like we're trying to like help out where we can, or figure out ways where we can just like make it better. We have .NET format now, which is just a command line tool. You can just run .NET format and like as a command line tool, like,
oh really?
It'll
go and
ahead
formats all of your code.
Everything that is available in your editor config that's set as a warning or an error, it will apply those for you, which is really cool. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So that came out in in .NET 6. So that's a really exciting tool. So we're like, okay, let's hook that in now to the like code cleanup UI and Visual Studio. So it's like going to be the same thing that's happening. So like people can actually like run all their editor config warnings or errors. But yeah, we had this engineer who like literally wrote out like 40 problems with like editor config, all these things. And I was just like, no, this is like amazing. It took me like an hour to reply, because like I wanted to make sure I found issues for everything. I wanted to like search for those issues to make sure he knows like we're on top of it. But yeah, please do, because it is a huge space, code style enforcement and code quality enforcement. So yeah, like feel free to just like reach out to me whenever. I would love.
Like I said, you might regret that someday. So you know, when Kendrick quit, I thought in my mind, oh yeah, she's getting away from me. I know why.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But I got to wrap up the show because we're at time already. And so I'm sorry I went off track a couple times. You know, I haven't done a show in 3 weeks, and so I think I had
that's cool.
I was trying to, I didn't know what I was doing. So I'm really glad you came on the show. I definitely want to have you back just to talk about editor config. And so maybe we'll set up a show maybe closer to when .NET 7 comes out. And because maybe you can share more stuff, you know, about what's coming with Visual Studio. But I think we need to have a show just on editor config, because I don't think people understand how to use it, and it's even there, right? So
yeah, that's another thing we're working on, is like discoverability. Like we just want to add a right click, like the Solution Explorer right click menu. We just want to have an option that says add editor config, just to like make it easy on everyone, because like the add new project template is just like annoying to search for. Like you don't even know that editor config's in there. So we're trying to, we're actively working on it, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad you guys working on performance. So the two questions I ask everybody before they leave the show, and that is, besides working on coding Visual Studio, besides working on Visual Studio and stuff like that, what do you do for fun?
So we were kind of talking about this earlier, but I do this like plant-based cooking course. Right. Like I'm actually in school for it. Like I have homework to do after this, and I have to like submit. I take like, because it's like online, I can just take photos of all the different dishes that I cook. So I'm doing that. And I also love to do yoga. And like, because I live in Venice Beach, there's so many yoga studios here.
I bet.
Yeah. So I do Ashtanga yoga, which is just like a really intense, like heated hour and a half yoga class. So I try to do that at least 5 times a week.
I can't do yoga. My proportions are too out of whack. You know, yoga does not work for me. I've tried it. Believe me, it's embarrassing.
It's hard. It's also hard when you're not flexible, because it like you feel the pain in your body. You're like trying to touch your toes and it just hurts, you know. And but I don't know, flexible body, flexible mind, I think. So
yeah, I know. Well, maybe Simon, we should have a show and teach people how to do yoga to deal with stress. Yeah. Oh, Simon likes yoga. Okay,
Oh,
good.
cool. Yeah.
My Simon must do it. So,
Yeah.
and do you have anything to plug before you go?
Anything to plug, you're saying?
Yeah.
Like
any?
Please install
Probably
Visual
not, but
Studio 2022. I'm so bad at this. I'm like, all right.
That's okay.
Yeah, and then please check out Roslyn. Please do check it out. And if you ever want to contribute, that would be awesome. We work on IntelliSense, navigation, as well as code fixes, refactorings, code style enforcement, editor config, as you can see. So if you ever want to see what we're up to, like go to Roslyn on GitHub. And if you ever want to get a feature in, like feel free to file an issue there. And we really do prioritize like all of our issues based on upvotes. So also upvote anything that you see currently there as well, so we can prioritize it.
Yeah, I do that. Well, thanks a lot for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your Saturday, and go learn how to cook, and then maybe someday you can do a blog post about it, and I can promote it for you.
Sounds good.
But thanks a lot. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks. Well, that was a fun interview. Unfortunately, I got sidetracked too much. I really wanted to talk about EditorConfig more, but we'll have her back on the show. That's the cool thing. We do the show most Saturdays, and I can have her back on. So yeah, I definitely put a note in my head that I'm going to ask her back on when .NET 7 is getting closer to release, because I know they're super busy working on that right now, and I don't want to bug too many people at Microsoft right now. So got some more slides. Like every week, everybody gets a copy of CodeRush from DevExpress. CodeRush is my favorite and only refactoring tool that I've used in Visual Studio since it came out. And so I use it all the time. I've been using it a lot lately, working on Spargin. I'm getting the new release out this weekend, so I hope you go check it out. It's a free licensed copy. It's not stripped down or something like that. So I hope you go check it out. Let me know how you like it. I did do a Twitter poll, and unfortunately, I'm pretty sad about this. I'm asking people now that COVID's winding down, if they're going to start going, does their company pay them to go to in-person conferences? And unfortunately, you can see the number there, 67% don't. And I think that's really, really sad, because I think companies are missing an opportunity for developers to really network and learn about all the things that other people are doing. Because, I think most teams, even at Microsoft, get in their little bubble and they don't go out very far. And getting out of your bubble really makes you a better developer. And one of the ways you can do that is by going to conferences. So I hope companies will put more money towards this, and we'll see. I'll do another poll in a couple of years and see if it's getting better, but I'm not holding out much hope. We'll keep trying, right? Only you can go after your company and say, I want to go to conferences. I used to put that in my contracts, where I made them send me to 2 conferences a year, period. And anyway, my coding standards book is out on Amazon. I hope you go check it out. I found some geek humor I kind of liked. You're coding a feature, you're done, and then someone comes over. Where's the unit test? We're talking about that today. Where's the documentation? Where's the bug fixing? Where's the code review? Where's the JIRA tickets? Where the blah, blah, blah? Actually, this has a lot to do with the article that I talked about at the top of the hour, my new article in CSharpCorner. I thought I was a software engineer. I thought I was a software engineer is that last square there. So I hope you go check out the article. Also, I'm still raising money for the kids in Delhi, and I hope you help me with that. There's 2 ways to help. Either buy my code performance book, which 100% of the proceeds of that goes to them every quarter, every couple months. And I have raised a tiny little bit of money the last couple of months, but not enough to even send them at this point. So I hope you go check out my code performance book. If you don't want to get the book, please go to that GoFundMe page where I'm raising money. I've already donated all the money raised so far, which is close to $500. And I was talking to Kendra before, sorry. Sorry, Mika. I was talking to Mika before the show. Because of my support, they've been able to restart their vocational training there. But that will only continue to happen if you help me help the kids in the slums. And so there's 2 ways you can do it. I hope you help me out. All right. Thanks for watching. I had somebody else from Microsoft on next week, Byron. He's a principal PM manager on the Azure app platform. So I'm really interested in talking and picking Byron's brain about all that kind of stuff, especially now my new job on Architect. I need to learn more about those kind of things. Also, please be safe. COVID, Simon told me right before the show that actually COVID's getting worse in Delhi. I actually checked this week, and in America, we're still having 800 people die a day from COVID. So we're not over this, people. So please be safe. Please wear your mask. I don't know about you, but I'm going to continue wearing masks on the airplane. I've gotten sick so many times being on an airplane. I'm going to always wear masks from now on the airplane or to mass transit. And also, I hope you go donate blood at your local blood bank. I did 2 Sundays ago. I finally got my iron back up and I'm able to donate again. And so I did that a couple weeks ago. I'll be going in a couple more weeks. So please donate. They're in a huge shortage of blood everywhere in the world. So I hope you go help your fellow human by donating a pint of your blood. 1 pint of blood will help up to 3 people. So it's your duty. You might be there someday. So karma's a bitch. That's all I got to say. Okay, that's it. Email suggestions, requests, who you want me to have on the show, how you like the show, how you don't like the show. Please email me at rockincodeworld@csharpcorner.com. And with that, I'll see you next week. Thanks, geeks.